In 2018, the UN General Assembly endorsed the resolution creating the International Day of Family Remittances, giving voice to over 200 million migrants around the world and their 800 million family members back home. On this day, we recognize the efforts of 1 billion people on Earth who either send or receive remittances and who collectively form the human face of globalization. For centuries, people have been moving from rural to urban areas and across national borders in search of better opportunities. That's how human nature drives migration. But with migrant workers and remittances, we have another perspective on this phenomenon. People leaving home in order to give their families the chance to remain in their hometowns and villages, and in some cases prepare the basis for a possible return. Recent estimates indicate that in 2021, over 200 million migrant workers worldwide sent more than $605 billion to indicatively 800 million family members and communities in low and middle income countries, a gain of 8.6% compared to 2020. During these years of health and economic crisis, Ghanaian migrants demonstrated once more incredible resilience and commitment to their loved ones back home, as they continued to send remittances and invest in Ghana despite tremendous challenges. In 2020, remittances to Ghana amounted to $4.5 billion, representing over 5% of the country's GDP. These figures alone demonstrate how impactful these flows are for the country's economy. One lesser-known aspect of this phenomenon and of major importance for an organization like the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD, is the fact that over half of these flows go to rural areas, where they count the most, and where challenges and opportunities are also the greatest. Indeed, it is in rural areas where financial inclusion rates are lower and payment infrastructure is weaker. Despite this, remittances help secure economic wealth and livelihoods for rural families and communities, particularly in times of crisis. It also prevents many small farmers, women, and youth from falling into poverty traps when they face financial shocks. Remittances are also pivotal in enabling rural people to invest in resilient activities, thus providing them with sustainable alternatives to migration. Through remittance-linked adapted savings, insurance, credit, and investment products, these flows bring resilience to hundreds of millions of migrants' families and are a crucial means to build their way towards financial independence. Another important fact is that both remittances and diaspora investments to rural areas offer a concrete avenue for climate adaptation. Indeed, we see that these flows allow smallholder farmers to better anticipate, manage, and become resilient to climate change. The recent global COVID-19 pandemic also proved to be an unprecedented opportunity to further leverage the development impact of remittances, as it created the conditions for an increased adoption of digital channels, which in turn promoted the use of former channels and in many cases brought down costs. Ladies and gentlemen, for more than 15 years now, IFAD has been working with migrants and their families back home in more than 50 countries to maximize the impact of both migrants' investments and the remittances they send. In particular, through its financing facility for remittances, IFAD has been working on models of intervention where both of these financial flows can be linked with investment opportunities in rural areas. In Ghana, thanks to the financial contribution of the European Union and in close collaboration with key partners and stakeholders, we are implementing the Prime Africa program with the aim to address the main challenges in the country's remittance market and exploit all opportunities to leverage their impact for rural development and financial inclusion. A national remittance stakeholder network has been set up to promote a regular inclusive dialogue on the key aspects of the national remittance market. This started on the basis of results of an in-depth analysis and continued with the adoption of a roadmap for action for the upcoming years. A call for proposals for innovative interventions was launched last year. And I'm happy to say that partnership agreements are concluded with EcoBank, Fidelity Banks, and MFS Africa. through which we hope to contribute to the reduction of remittance costs, foster digital and financial inclusion, and expand formal remittance channels to the country. Our engagement will also continue to increase in the coming years in partnership with key national and international actors, with the aim to make Ghana an example to learn from by other African countries. To conclude, I take this opportunity to invite everyone to join us today in celebrating the International Day of Family Remittances, and to take concrete actions towards supporting and advocating for the development impact of remittances. Distinguished participants, while wishing you a productive event, it is my pleasure to give the floor to my colleague, Mr. Mauro Martini, to introduce the next speaker. Thank you.
So, distinguished colleagues, I'm now pleased to invite to speak Madame Pooja Balla, Officer in charge on behalf of IOM Chief of Mission and Chair of the United Nations Migration Network, who speaks also on behalf of the United Nations Resident Coordinator.
Good morning to all of you. The Head of Research at the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Philip Abradu Otu, the Head of Financial Sector Division of the Ministry of Finance, Mr. Samson Akilgo, the country representative for the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD, Mr. Hani Abdelkader El Sadani Salem, development partners, representatives of various ministries, departments, and agencies, United Nations staff, the media, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the United Nations Network on Migration in Ghana, I welcome you today to today's observance of the International Day of Family Remittances in Ghana. It is an honor and a pleasure for me to be here today and to address you on the occasion of the IDFR 2022. My special appreciation goes to IFAD and the National Remittances Stakeholders Network for their efforts in bringing all of us together to discuss strategies for leveraging the impact of remittances for migrants and their families. Ladies and gentlemen, there were as many as 281 million international migrants in 2020, of whom 48% were women and girls, and 15% were under the age of 20. Remittances are a critical source of support for communities, with migrants having transferred over $751 billion in remittances in 2021 to over 800 million families in their countries of origin in the same year. Data from the World Bank on personal remittances transfers received in Ghana in the year 2020 showed an increase totaling $4.29 billion, equating to 6.3% of the gross domestic product of Ghana. The growth and importance of remittances to the economy of Ghana cannot be overemphasized, as remittances contribute to the meeting of shortfalls in households, incomes, payment of schooling or training of a household member, paying medical bills of a household member, as well as supporting left-behind children of migrants. While the increase in volumes of remittances received by Ghana is a positive development, it's important to be alert of the following. I highlight three. One, the risk of using remittances to meet only consumption needs. Two, the high cost associated with remittance transfers to Ghana, which stands at an average of about 6.4% of the remitted amounts. Three, identifying strategies that can be placed at the disposal of the government to mobilize diaspora remittances for development. For this purpose, the need of continuous engagement of the UN with the private sector, civil society, and government in developing innovative digital financial services and remittance-led investment products is more important than ever. In this regard, we have good results to showcase and a track record from the UN system in unleashing the potential of digital solutions that leverage remittances for both migrants and their families at home. Some of our sister UN agencies are currently working with the private sector and public sectors to offer remittance-linked services such as microfinance, as well as new innovative channels, example, crowdfunding, to offer diaspora and migrants new avenues to support public projects in the country of origin, with a specific focus on climate change resilient infrastructures. It is imperative that policy prescriptions do not only meet the need of migrants and their families, but also address the bottlenecks in government development financing towards the attainment of the vision of a prosperous Ghana. Ladies and gentlemen, permit me to speak briefly now about the UN Network on Migration. The network is coordinated by the UN Resident Coordinator and the International Organization for Migration, and works to facilitate effectively, timely, and coordinated UN system-wide support to Ghana on migration governance, including implementation, follow-up, review of the Global Compact for Safe, Orderly, and Regular Migration, popularly known as the GCM. In fact, Ghana is a champion country for implementing the GCM, which includes Objective 19 on creating the conditions for migrants and diasporas to fully contribute to sustainable development in all countries, and Objective 20 on promoting faster, safer and cheaper transfers of remittances and foster financial inclusion of migrants. The GCM provides the means to attain the migrant-specific sustainable development goals. On this note, the UN Network on Migration in Ghana is proud to be associated with the observance of the International Day of Family Remittances and commits to working with stakeholders within the UN and the government to improve capacities to leverage the impact of remittances for sustainable development. With that, I wish you all a successful observance of the International Day of Family Remittances for 2022. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Pojabala. And now I'm very honored to invite Mr. Philip Abradwoto, Head of Research of the Bank of Ghana, to share with us his high-level remarks.
Mr. Chairman, the IDFR Country Director, Hani Abdelkader Sani, Madam Pojabali, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, again, good morning. First, let me begin by expressing my gratitude to IDFR for inviting me to join other stakeholders to observe the International Day for Family Remittance. Personally, I feel that setting aside a day to raise awareness regarding the importance of remittances is in the right direction. While we cannot take for granted the contribution of migrant workers' transfers to families back home to support livelihood as a vital source of foreign exchange for the foreign exchange market and as investment to support economic development, its role goes far beyond this. I cannot therefore agree more with IDFR as part of UN development system to dedicate a day every year, June 16th, I guess, to raise awareness of the contributions of migrant workers' remittances to economic growth and poverty reduction. Mr. Chairman, remittance flows or private individual transfers, excluding official transfers, have increased significantly over the years. From 499 million in the year 2000 in Ghana, private individual transfers have surged to 3.6 billion as at 2020. Over the past few years, private individual remittances in Ghana alone has averaged 3.4 billion, surpassing foreign direct investment flows over the same period. In 2020, private inward transfers accounted for 5.1% of our GDP, with an average of 4.8 for the past 3 years. Remittances as a source of foreign exchange inflows and livelihood support have been broadly stable in Ghana, exhibiting significant degree of resilience when other sources of capital flows fluctuate. Even in 2020, a COVID pandemic year, with high level of global uncertainties, remittance flows to Ghana was quite remarkable. And this surprised many policymakers. From a technical point of view, I must say that there is no single day when analysis of the balance of payments is done without not talking about remittances. It is an important component of the current account. And as you know, the current account is a key economic fundamental indicator. A decline in remittances, for example, adversely impacts the current account. And therefore, to get support from remittances tells you how important remittances are and how that indicator is for macroeconomic stability. We just heard from the first and second co-speakers, Hani Abdel Kader Sani and Madam Poja Bali, and they have eloquently painted a picture and gone into detail the importance of remittances globally and how it is supporting poverty and helping families all over the world. There is no gainsaying the fact that this indicator is indeed critical and should be harnessed. All these suggest that remittance ecosystem has great potential, and applying the necessary tools, policy and regulatory framework, we could harness the potential in the remittances market to support economic development and help reduce poverty. Mr. Chairman, the Bank of Ghana is a key stakeholder in the remittance ecosystem, and over the years has been at the forefront harnessing the potential in that sector for the benefit of the larger economy. What has the Bank of Ghana done? Let me enumerate a few of the things that has been done over the years in support of that ecosystem. Following the passage of the Payment System and Services Act 2019, Act 987, the Bank of Ghana has issued licenses to dedicated electronic money issuers and payment services providers to do business with the public. Furthermore, in 2021, the bank issued the guidelines for inward remittance services by payment service providers, including the fintechs, with the aim of further growing and developing the Ghanaian inward market remittance. With this enabling policy framework, the Bank of Ghana regulates the fintechs in the payment service space. These fintechs have partnered with mobile transfer operators to facilitate remittances into Ghana, particularly for individuals and the private sector. Ghanaians in the diaspora now have access to diverse money transfer operator services and are able to initiate funds transfer from their mobile phones and in the comfort of their homes at an affordable cost to beneficiaries in Ghana who also receive the funds into their mobile money wallets or into their bank accounts directly. The non-cash pickup of remittances by beneficiaries fostered by the fintech's model is expected to deepen the financial inclusion objectives of the Bank of Ghana by encouraging patronage of services of formal channels of financial service delivery. Importantly, the availability of multiple ways of sending money has increased competition, lowered cost of transfer, increased transaction flows through the formal remittance channel, which is an essential complement to the traditional bank channel, and enhanced the overall efficiency of the remittance industry. Mr. Chairman, I must admit that despite these efforts to increase remittances flows, there is still a lot more work to be done. The cost of transfer, although it has come down in recent times, is still very high compared to the global average, and the informal channel of transferring funds still persists, although this is reducing. As policymakers, the challenge borders on how to further deepen and improve the remittance ecosystem to reduce the cost of transfers and reduce the informal channels of money transfers. To conclude, I wish to reiterate that the Bank of Ghana will continue to work and collaborate with payment service providers, with money transfer operators, the banks, and other government agencies to address the remaining challenges in the remittances ecosystem. Let me assure you all that the Bank of Ghana is very vigilant on the happenings in this ecosystem and will work assiduously to make the system a better and efficient one. On behalf of the Governor of the Bank of Ghana, let me once again thank IFAD for the opportunity to share these few remarks as we observe the International Day for Remittance. We stand with you. Thank you very much.
I would like to call the first panel of the day to join us on the stage. So I'm going to invite Francine Dove from IFAD to moderate the panel. She is our Remittances and Inclusive Digital Financial Specialist for Ghana. She will be joined by Benjamin Torsa from the Ministry of Finance, Ghana, by Godwin Kafula-Gozie, Head of Mobile Money Remittances, Fidelity Bank, by Eric Akomani, Labor Mobility and Human Development Officer of the International Organization for Migration, and by Prince Opon-Kwarteng, Advisor and Coordinator of Business Ideas for Development, GIZ, Ghana. So I will kindly ask all panelists to come on the stage so that we can start the first debate.
Okay, good morning all. As Mauro mentioned, I'm Francine Dove, and I'm the Remittances and Inclusive Digital Finance Specialist for the Financing Facility for Remittances at IFAD in Ghana here. It's a very long sentence. Thank you for all for joining us, and thank you to the panel. I know that Mauro did mention them, but I will give everybody the mic to introduce themselves.
Thank you. I'm Godwin Kafula-Gozie from Fidelity Bank. I head the remittances.
Benjamin Tosaklu from Ministry of Finance, Financial Sector Division.
Thank you very much. Good morning. My name is Eric Kwame Akumenyi, Labor Mobility and Human Development with the International Organization for Migration. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Prince Opon-Kwarteng. I am also a technical advisor with the German International Development Corporation, GIZ, responsible for remittances.
Thank you very much, guys. So today, this panel, we're here to talk about remittance families and the Sustainable Development Goals. Remittances touch a number of the Sustainable Development Goals at a household, community, and international level. Ghana has made great strides, as our high-level remarks have suggested. They contribute a lot, and we owe a lot to the remittance families. Whilst we are progressive and moving forward, there's always more to be done. So what I want to ask the panelists today are what are their main challenges and opportunities they see in being able to contribute more to the SDGs through remittances, to support remittance families more, to offer them the products and services that are required for them to be able to achieve the goals they set out for themselves and to change the lives of their families. So if I could start with you, Godwin, at the end, that would be really great.
Okay, thank you. As has been said already by those who have already given us the introduction messages, remittance is very key to all of us. With Okay. In terms of challenges, remittance is not exempted. We have cost of transactions as being one of the major challenges that faces the remittance business. The cost is from both sides, cost from the send side and cost to the recipient as well. From the send side, the MTOs are supposed to pay fees to, the senders are supposed to pay fees to the MTOs, which can be very expensive, despite the fact that it has improved due to digital interventions. But even that, we can still do better. As has been said earlier, if you are sending transactions to Africa especially, it costs you about 6% of the amount that you are sending, which is really high. That is one factor. And then when it comes to Ghana as well, and the recipient is also going to receive it, if it is not by digital channel and it's a cash pickup, the person has to travel long distances, which is also cost, and also inconveniences to the recipient in terms of documentations, ID card, name spelling, all frustrations here and there. So these are some of the challenges. Can I go ahead? Okay, thank you.
That's really great, Godwin. But from your perspective as a bank, it would be really great to understand things like, we know obviously the cost, and we know that the market is working on bringing those down. Projects like Prime Africa for IFAD and the Green Project for UNCDF are working on those different things. Things like financial literacy, financial education, financial inclusion all help reach the SDGs and help improve lives. Could you tell me a little bit about challenges around that and what you see for financial inclusion, financial literacy, which will orderly, what do you see as the barriers as to why we don't have more, why people are not more financially included, and how and why maybe financial literacy doesn't maybe work as well?
Thank you. So in that regard, I think another reason is still the cost part. People have the perception that our banking facilities are expensive, especially those who are excluded. The perception is still there, despite the fact that they've not even tried it. People also have some kind of mistrust in the financial sector. Maybe I think it's because we've been mis-selling most of the products to them. They believe that banks are there to just exploit you. So those kind of mistrust and also cost is also one of the reasons why people don't want to get involved or included in the banking space. Another thing is also the documentations and other things that we require in the banking sector is also a disadvantage for us. For example, someone is coming for just a small facility. The documents that we require from them is also something that really puts people off, those who are not included. And the nature of the businesses that people run, they don't run businesses in the formal sector. So people are not registered. If you ask somebody to bring an ID card, residence, proof of residence, and all that, these are things that put them off. So the perception about the cost is one, and then the mistrust is another one, and then the paper requirements, documentations. I think my BOG man will agree with me. Some of the things we request for. Some will even joke and tell you they will ask of the name of your great-grandfather, which is not true, per se. Yeah. So the documentation is also part. I think these are some of the things that really make it difficult. The documents that we require from them makes it a bit difficult for them to get involved. So if we can find ways and means of liberalizing that area of it, it makes it easy. And then the cost aspect should also be considered. And when we are selling to them, we should be careful we sell the right products. You tell somebody, open an account is free. Then at the end of the day, you start debiting the person some strange fees that the person is not aware of. The news will go all over that don't try it. So that's one of the factors that really worry the financial inclusion sector.
Thank you so much, Godwin. Moving on to Benjamin. It would be really good to hear your perspective from the Ministry of Finance in terms of the challenges and opportunities that we face. And you can speak about anything, particularly financial literacy, if it's education, if it's inclusion. What are your opinions?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Francine. From the macro level, as Philip said earlier, the remittances affect our current accounts. So, and in Ghana too, one of the earlier speakers said mainly is for consumption. So it doesn't go to the productive sectors of the economy as well. And most at times, the major aspect you can get is through construction of houses, among other things, whereby people send money down. But as today we are talking about remittances to family, it is clear that the migrants help family back home in Ghana, or those in Ghana also help family back home in other areas of the city. Now, coming back to the opportunities exist as digitization. Today, you can receive your money terminated at your wallet or at a bank account, which is encouraging. For financial inclusion, we are a bit ahead now because figures will come out soon, and we realize that we are a little over 90% financial inclusion, majority being the mobile money account. So in that angle, we all know that definitely there is that opportunity. On the angle of financial literacy, I think from the ministry's perspective, we are trying to develop financial literacy strategy, or we've developed a strategy, and we'll very soon launch out on how best we can educate Ghanaians with regard to total financial aspects of their lives, including remittances, including financial inclusion, how to open bank account, how to make savings, how to make an investment in order to improve our lives, and also ensure that people take loans and responsible for payment. You don't take loan and don't pay, but all those things have to be cleared and educated Ghanaians on.
Thank you so much. Eric, I'm going to come to you next to get your perspective. We obviously know the importance of remittance families, migrants and diaspora send money, they invest money. What do you think the challenges and opportunities are here?
Okay, thank you very much, Francine, and good morning, and thanks to the previous speakers. I, first of all, want to say in terms of the opportunities we see, and coming from a development perspective, is the will and the commitment from the government. I think for me, that is positive because there is the will, there's the interest, and there's the commitment to make sure we leverage remittances for development. The various regulatory frameworks that are being put in place, I think for me, is commendable. And indeed, yes, we are making gains around financial inclusion. I think he did put out, we are doing about 90%. Before this, I think Findex had put it around 58%. But it's good to see that we're making progress. And for me, I will attribute that to the commitment from the government. Indeed, when we did our study for 2019 on remittances, we had put out there that by 2025, we're expecting to see a fully digitized remittance market in Ghana. And I want to believe that dream is possible because the commitment and the will is there from the side of government and other development partners. In terms of the challenges and the issues, and once again talking from the point of view of development practitioner and working for migrants, I see that the attempts to develop these policies at times are not explicit in addressing the needs of migrants. And I probably want to throw this challenge to my colleague from the Ministry of Finance because I hear you have in place the financial literacy strategy. I would want to see the extent to which this speaks to the needs of migrants, not only Ghanaian as migrants, but migrants living in Ghana, because they also do contribute to development. We already did hear from my friend from Fidelity the challenge with accessing remittances, and these are challenges faced by Ghanaians. So if we look at this in the context of migrants who are living in Ghana, being able to access all this documentation, then you can definitely see there is indeed a bit of a challenge when looked at from the point of view of the migrants. So for me, I think that is an area we would want to see a bit more effort in terms of being more explicit in integrating and addressing the needs of migrants in most of the policies that we elaborate. And then also cost, obviously, is an issue. I think I don't need to belabor that point, but what does that mean to the migrants? Because if the migrants who ILO now puts out about 160 million economic migrants roaming the world are sending remittances back home, and these are very small monies they are sending, but then if they are being asked to pay more in cost of remitting, what it means is we are depriving families back home some higher amounts that they could actually have received. So this is actually what it means when we have high cost of sending remittances. I must admit there's been improvements. We're averaging around 6.4 according to the World Bank, but we can do more because the global commitment is to get to about 3%. So I believe we are not very far off in terms of achieving this, even though at the regional level we seem to be doing better, but I want to believe we can do more in that area in addressing issues of cost and also meeting the interests and needs of migrants. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eric. And then last but not least on this first round, Prince, it would be really good to hear your thoughts.
Thank you very much. I would like to also approach it from a development organization point of view. I'm happy to hear that the Ministry of Finance is really committed to solving the problem of financial inclusion. And I'm happy that it is also IFAD that has brought all of us together because we all recognize that over 70% of our population are rural-based. I see that oftentimes the policies that are made, or it appears that most of the things that we do talk about financial inclusion or financial literacy and all of these things have focused on the urban areas. But I think that we need to also recognize that with over 70% of our population being rural-based, that is one of the challenges that we will need to think of addressing if you want to solve this problem. So how do we get products or things that will bring the people in the rural communities on board? Most of these people who are in rural communities are those who are deprived. They are the vulnerable ones. So when we talk financial inclusion and financial literacy, how do we include these people in the adoption of technology? We are using fintech, as Mr. Osu talked about. We are solving a lot of the remittances problems with fintech and innovation. How do we get these things to rural communities? So the MOMO and all those things that we brought on board were really helpful. But which other ways can we adopt to solve the challenges that we have in the rural communities? So this is something that I believe is a challenge that we will deal with. Another thing that I would like to talk about in terms of opportunity in dealing with this will be engagement of the private sector. I'm happy that we have Fidelity Bank here. They are purely a private sector institution. They are doing a lot to solve this problem for us. So what are some of the things that we can do together with them? The MOMO organizations, and a lot of them, they are now at our doorsteps. We see a lot of banking agencies. Some of them can include things about basic education on how to use the funds that they receive at the end of the day when they get it. Because the remittances have mostly been committed to consumables when they receive them. How do we get them to invest them in other areas that will be income generating for them? How do we get them to put them into micro insurance policies or basic things or health insurance or things that will improve the livelihood of most of these communities that are deprived so that their lives can become better? So that at the end of the day, the remittances that are often sent with specific purpose before it is sent is either for school fees or for buying cement or buying something. How do we change the mindset of the recipients to be able to have other channels that will be investment purpose at the time they are receiving the remittances? This is where financial literacy programs come in. So we can all come together to come up with strategies, products. Some of them may be online, some of them may be physical, some of them may even be USSD. We get text messages every now and then from the telecom operators and most of the other actors in the private sector. So all of us together will have a role to play in dealing with this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prince. Thank you to all the panelists. We touched on some really great points. It's great that the efforts of Ghana in terms of financial inclusion have come to fruition, but there is more work to be done in the rural areas in order to be able to make sure they are equally as financially included as the urban areas. Cost remains an issue, and I think that remains an issue globally in terms of remittances and something that continues to be addressed. We need new products to improve the livelihoods of especially the rural communities and a change of mindset in order to be able to have receivers reach the full potential with the funds that they receive. So this is really, really great, and I know you guys have way more to share. So for my second round of questions, I would like to, we've addressed the challenges, we've talked a little bit about the opportunities. I'd like to talk about specific examples or initiatives that your organization is involved in or is partnering with in order to address some of these things. So I'm going to start with you, Godwin.
Thank you. So for us as a bank, we have tried to really make sure that recipients of remittances have become financially included and giving them products that will let them stay. So what we've done as a bank is, one, to help all cash pickup transactions open an account, low KYC account, which we call our smart account. You just need an ID card, then account is open for you. Yeah, we even have agents that go to the marketplaces. You don't need to even come to the banking hall to open an account. In the comfort of your home, you can even open some online and all that. So, but in the banking hall, we have done it in such a way that immediately you come for a cash pickup transaction, we convert you straight away to open an account, to become an account holder, so that the next time you are receiving remittance, you just give that account number to your sender to send the money to you. And in addition, we give you a free card so that you can take the money anytime you want when it's terminated into your account. In addition to that, we even give them interest. We have insurance products that goes with it, that will make sure that you have enjoy the product that you have. What we really do to make sure it's easy for them is the low KYC. Yeah, you don't go through the normal requirements for opening an account, which deters them from coming to the bank. So just an ID, you are fine. Account is open. We even give you a card for free. Sometimes we even give them other incentives in terms of credit, T-shirt, something just to make you happy to open the account, just to make sure that you become an account holder. We again chase them, those who are not even in the banking hall. We have what we call agency backing as a bank. We have over 5,000 of those people around the whole country. They'll go about people in town, telling them to open accounts, helping them to open accounts. So if your account is open, you don't need to come to the banking hall to open an account. In the market, we open an account for you. In your house, account is open for you, and then you can transact. There are also incentives that we give to motivate them. Yeah. I think these are some of the things we're doing.
Okay, still another question for you, Godwin. So it would be great to hear a bit more about the work that you're doing with IFAD and VIAMO in terms of financial literacy, because I think that's something that's really new. Yeah?
So thanks to IFAD has come to our aid for us to partner and see how we can help bring a lot of people to the financial umbrella. So what we're doing now with IFAD is that, especially for remittance recipients, especially those who take the cash, we want to make sure they become digitized. You know, for now, as a bank, we terminate remittance to wallet, cash, and account. So we are doing well now in that area. We've been able to achieve over 70% of all the remittances that have been taken over the years that come cash pickup. We've been able to move all of them to termination to wallet. So cash is moving to wallet. So what we intend to do, or what we're doing now, is to make sure that the 30% that is left, we are able to move all of them also digital. So we open the account for you. We've even come out with a new product with IFAD, which is very, very innovative. If you are a cash pickup transaction and you come to the banking hall, you pick your money, we give you a form to fill. Next time, even if the sender insists that you should pick the money cash, and you decide that when it comes here cash, it should be moved into your wallet or bank account for you. That can also be done. At first, the sender decides that it should go into wallet, cash, or account. But now, even the recipient, you have the freedom to decide that despite the fact that the money that has been sent to me, I'm supposed to pick it cash. I can sit in my home and instruct the bank, put it in wallet for me or a bank account for me. That's one of the things we're doing now. And then we are also using our agency points to open more accounts, as I've said, to broaden the account base of the customers. What we also want to do is that the digitization is very key for us as a bank. So customers are being encouraged to use digital products as a bank. So we've designed a lot of items for them. And therefore, when it comes to financial literacy, we've also designed what we call with Viamo, what we call IVR, interactive voice response, whereby anybody who wants to get financial knowledge, you just pick your phone and dial a number. Immediately you dial the number, you select the language. If it is Twi, Ga, you can just press 1 and you are educated on anything you want. If it is finance, if it is investment, if it is any product that you want, you will be educated in your own language instantly at the comfort of your home. Just dial it and then you are there. That's one of the things we are doing with IFAD on this program, so that people don't need to maybe come to the banking hall, or somebody has to come to you and tell you about your opportunities that you need. You take your phone, you're able to educate yourself, ask questions, and you receive answers to that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Godwin. So Benjamin, again, any examples, initiatives, or any pipeline plans I know you said there's a strategy, financial literacy strategy being developed. Is there any plans for further engagement with different stakeholders or any kind of working groups, anything like that?
Yeah, thank you very much. We have the National Financial Inclusion Strategy, or National Financial Inclusion and Development Strategy, which is likely to end next year. So in the pipeline, we want to review it, see where we are, what are the current issues standing. In addition to that, we have digital financial services policy, which we like to improve the governance of the financial sector, create enabling regulations, build capacity of the market players, ensure that market infrastructures are put in place to ensure easy access to financial services, including remittances, and also support the fintech industry, which we all know is some people call it disruption, but I call it technology is the way of doing things today. So you can sit here and have a meeting across the world. So is the fintech also. As I said earlier, remittances are also terminate on mobile wallets, in bank account, as Godwin said earlier. So those are the things we are looking at, and how best we can also improve financial inclusion, whereby people don't just open bank accounts and keep it. They must use it. How are we also ensuring that the consumers of these financial services are protected and ensure that they also contribute their quota to the national development? So these are the policies we have and how best we can also. And earlier too, I said about financial literacy. So once we roll out, we try to educate people on all, and then how to have access to financial services.
Thank you so much, Benjamin. Eric, it would be great to hear from you.
Thank you, Francine. Maybe before I go to what we're doing, maybe to ask my colleague from Fidelity, Mr. Akusi. I think we had worked before, and at the time, we had raised issues around diaspora banking. I don't know, you did indicate a number of accounts you have, but from our engagement with migrants, I think that is one of the area of interest, how well we are banking the diaspora. I don't know if you have any product on that you may probably want to share, or if there's been any improvement within the space on diaspora banking, and if they can leverage on any of their investments with you to have any other investment products, even though they may not be present in Ghana themselves. Yeah, maybe, yeah, before.
Yeah, as we all the diaspora, they become very key now to our economy. And you cannot attest to the fact that the 4.5 billion that came last year was all coming from them. So they are part of our strategy. We have a lot of investment packages for them. So what we do is that we've even recruited people to open accounts in the diaspora and giving them facilities, especially mortgage. Yeah, and all that. We have facilities for them. We even have agents. We meet them at the association meetings, and then Ghanaians in the park and all those programs. We are able to contact them and make sure we sell those products to them. Maybe we can collaborate more and see what we can do in that area. Okay.
Thank you very much, because I think some years ago it was one of the issues whenever we had engaged them, that what are the opportunities for them to open bank accounts back home and be able to use. But then to the very substantive question of what we are doing, I think in most of our research we've done, the key issue that keeps coming up is the challenge with data, on remittance data. We do work a lot with, get a lot of data from Bank of Ghana, but then in terms of the disaggregation, the collection of the data, and how is it disaggregated to provide a bit more of insight in terms of the consumer behavior, is one area that we see as a bit of a challenge, and we'll be happy to see some bit more work done. But what we have done ourselves is working with Ghana Statistical Service, one of our main partners, to try and see how we can improve administrative data, not just limited to remittances, but across the migration landscape. So, for instance, we have set up a unit working with Ghana Statistical Service that collates all administrative data, including remittances, that Ghana Statistical Service can receive and then use in policy designs and what have you. But then the challenge has been the disaggregation of the data. And for us, this is important because it speaks to Ghana's commitment in reporting against certain international frameworks, like the GCM, which has been spoken about, because the GCM Objective 20 is targeted at remittances. And for us to be able to report as a country, we need to see the progress we are making based on data. So that's one area we are keen to working on. We have also developed already with Statistical Service the tools to conduct a nationwide survey on remittances. Indeed, we had done one, but it was at a pilot stage. And whenever resources are available, we would be happy to maybe scale it up to probably do a household survey, which provides a bit more detail in terms of who is receiving, what are the uses that have been put to, is there been any change in trend in terms of the uses that remittances are put to. So that is an area we are also working on. But then most importantly, from all the studies we have done, Francine, we try to use them in our advocacy, advocating for the interest of migrants, and then being able to link them up to meaningful investment products when they come back home. In the past, we also did an assessment of the remittance-related services the financial institutions are providing to the migrants, and the recommendations are there. We already shared with the key partners for them to implement, and we're ready to work with government to implement some of these recommendations, yes. But then by and large, most of the recommendations are already, we're beginning to see fruit. Some of them are being implemented, and this is the little probably I have to share in terms of activities we're doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric. That all sounds really, really great. Prince, over to you. It'd be great to hear what you guys are working on.
Thank you. So for us, as a development organization, we are also much interested in the development of the people that we work with, in this case, Ghana, the Ghanaian people. So we try to come up with products that will help, as I mentioned, vulnerable groups, deprived communities, and then also activities that help women and children. So in our case, the first thing that I would like to talk about is a program that we have developed. So we have a product on one of our e-learning platforms. It's called Atingi, A-T-I-N-G-I. On this platform, it is free, and we have various modules of financial literacy. We have different models, fit to remit, fit to invest, and different financial literacy programs on the platform. It is free and accessible to anybody wherever you are located in the world. This is one of the things that we are doing in that regard. Apart from that, we know that some of the people in our rural communities may not have access to this online platform or this e-learning platform. So we embark on sensitization activities. We go to them, to their doorsteps in the rural communities, and embark on insurance and financial literacy programs. We speak to them in the rural communities. We start from northern Ghana to Accra. So it's a nationwide thing that we are trying to do. So this is one of the other things that we are doing. Apart from this, we also do multi-stakeholder dialogues that we bring together stakeholders like us gathered here to discuss in which ways that we can engage the diaspora more so that we can all support the government in the diaspora engagement policies. So there are documents and works that are ongoing in order to engage the diaspora more than we currently get from them. Because the diaspora's contribution is not only about financial remittances, we also have the social remittances. And this is another thing that we try to pay attention to. More contributions can come from diaspora in that regard. So we have another project we call WIDU, W-I-D-U. This is another project that we try to use the diaspora to contribute to their country of origin, in this case Ghana, where somebody in Germany would like to remit, not only in Germany, France, Netherlands, the major EU countries. You want to send money to someone in Ghana, so you register. We give the person you are sending the money to training on how to use the money as a form of business. And then we also top it up with an amount of euro to support most of them women so that they can do their petty trading and other activities. So before this process happens, they go through training by experts in how they can develop their businesses as ways of helping them manage the fund when it comes, before we also top it up. So these are some of the things that we are doing on our side to support financial literacy in Ghana.
Thank you so much, Prince. I think that just shows just how much work is being done. There's 2 different financial literacy platforms for Ghanaians. IOM kind of looking at data and advocating for the changes that need to happen to make it better for everybody, and the Ministry of Finance reviewing what they've already put in place in order to make sure that we are still making gains and we continue to move in a positive direction. So again, thank you, panelists. At this point, I want to open the floor to the audience. I don't know if anyone has any questions for me or any of the panelists, but we'll be happy to answer.
Thank you very much. So, a great panel. So many issues coming up. Very interesting issues. I just have 3 simple questions. I think the first one goes to Godwin. No, but this is for my education. I see the banks on, on that spectrum where these remittances are coming from. I see the banks, I see fintechs, and then I see MTOs. Are you guys worried about the role of fintechs? Are they taking away something from the banks? Because we do get a lot of these. We do get a lot of these complaints. We are still looking into the issues. Some banks are not happy about the role of fintechs. We hear some of these fintechs do keep whatever resources that they get from remittances. I would have loved to see a healthy partnership between the fintechs and the banks. For me, it's easier when I look through the lens of the banks because I see everything. I don't see everything as far as the fintechs are concerned, and that is where my worry is. Maybe there's some big data that we are missing. We don't know. What are your views on that? The second one is on data disaggregation. I don't know what you have at Fidelity, and whether your data is disaggregated enough. We've been trying and working on that project. When we talk about data disaggregation, we are talking about a country of origin where these remittances are coming. If you get to Bank of Ghana and you ask us that question, we can't give you a full picture because we just don't know, and the banks are not reporting fully on that. Some banks do report, some banks don't. And it makes us difficult to churn out that data because that data is impartial as we speak. And I just want to know what your perspectives are on this issue. Godwin, maybe we can pick up a thing or two from you. And then the other one is on the purpose of remittances. How can we get around with that, the purpose of remittances? Because listening to the panelists, there are some remittances that are coming for school fees, for consumption, for medical purposes. Some are going into construction. It would be good to know some of these information. Fidelity, maybe we can learn something from you. My last question is on GIZ, which is this top-up lending thing you're talking about. You top up and you lend. Are you doing that in partnership with a bank? That's my question.
Okay. Thank you very much. Great questions for me. I don't know, when I was presenting, I knew a question would come from your end to me. So I wasn't surprised at all. Okay. So on the fintechs and banks part, I think partnership is the best way to go. Banks may complain that at first we have to go and look for the MTOs and then just use the fintechs as a channel. But now with the regulation, they can also go and look for MTO and use your bank as just a settlement partner. So in that case, what we think we used to do at first, that gives us that leverage. Now we are all competing for the same MTOs. Yeah, I think that is where the challenge is coming from. But to me, it's just a matter of partnership. If I have a fintech, say, anytime you get an MTO, use me as a partner. When I also have an MTO, I'll use you as my fintech partner. So it's a matter of collaborating and partnering. But the challenge that you mentioned, I think that's where it's coming from. Where now they can also go and look for an MTO on their own and decide to choose the bank. Yes, that they want. Yeah, so it's no longer automatic for you. And you know, every bank, for instance, I have a target. If Insano sitting here is my partner and decide to go for a very big MTO, I'll go and choose another bank. Definitely, I would not be so excited. I think that's where the issue is. But the partnership and the relationship will solve it for us. And then on the data, I am extremely happy that you mentioned it because in Ghana, we have issue with remittance figures. Even if you check all the speakers, if you observe, different figures were quoted, and I was just smiling. That is the challenge we face. It all boils down to the reporting, as you rightly said. I think we will have to get that enforcement from you, BOG, to insist that all banks report, and the format that we should present the reporting. Yeah, because the reports that come from the MTOs, you know the country it is coming from, but the purpose of the transaction is not stated. If we want it, then we can insist on all the MTOs that please create a portion in the reporting that shows the purpose. That's why when customers come, especially the cash pickup, we normally ask them, what is the purpose of the funds? But with the digitization, you don't have that freedom to ask because it goes straight into the wallet of the person. So we can even insist that that report should be made available to us so that we can know that out of all the remittances that come, 20% goes to, let's say, household and school fees, health, and all that. I think that will help us. We can insist and make sure that the MTOs provide that information. That's a challenge because if they say certain things, you ask for more details. So, for example, I come and it said the funds is for building. If the amount is huge, especially if it's a cash speaker, we'll ask, what is the evidence that you are going to use the money for a building project? We'll go and bring documentations on the land. Then the person will tell you something that, okay, is for medical. Yeah, the person is Kolibu. If you like, call Kolibu and ask them. Yeah, so what you are saying is true. The customer will just give you the reason that it thinks you will not require more information. So from the send side, maybe that will handle the issue for us. Yeah. We are able to get these reasons maybe when they do surveys with the senders, that the money you are sending, normally what do you use it for? Then they are able to tell that it's for this and that and that. That's why we can tell that this percentage goes to home management, school fees, health, and all that. Yeah. I hope I've attempted to answer it.
Thank you very much. So before I respond, I wanted to also ask, or maybe react to Godwin's answers. Your question about, I don't know whether you asked about the data on the source of the funding, right? I mean, I thought the bankers will have a connection to the fintech companies since it's a formal system. I mean, before I send money through World Remit or TransferWise or any of the channels over there, you know the originating country, it is stated. Is there no connection to the paying bank in Ghana such that such information could be supplied to the Bank of Ghana? I was just wondering, since it's a formal system, maybe for data protection reasons, but if by law they are bound to supply to the Bank of Ghana through your banking supervision mechanisms, then I think they are supposed to give it to you. I mean, that's just my opinion. So, coming to my question about the redo. The process is that the payment is normally done into, it's just like you are receiving money from the diaspora. So the same mechanism that you use to receive money from somebody remitting to you is what we also use to pay. So a percentage of it, I don't want to quote the amounts because sometimes it's a bit tricky. So an amount of money will be given. Normally, sometimes the ceiling can be 2,500 euros, let's say. So when the COVID happened, we created a new product in that regard to support more people because we felt people needed more at that time. So the situation or the kind of temperature at the time determines how we want to go about it. So when you qualify, because there are conditions also. When you qualify, we test it and we realize that it's genuine and everything. Of course, we are aware that there are also bad notes in the system. So when we do all the assessment and the checks and everything, checks out, and we want to do it, the same mode that the person pays the money to you will be followed to give it. So it will be given as a composite amount. But the soft part is we ensure that we have trained you before. We had partners in the country so that it's not just any money that we were supporting. It has to be something related to being used for income-generating activity. Let's say a business or a petty trading or something. So we train you first on how best you can manage that business or manage the funding coming. Then when we realize that you have gone through the training and everything is satisfied, then the money will be given to you so that it can be committed into the right use.
Comment on data, because I think for us it's very important, especially when we look at migration flows, because in Ghana, the discourse around migration tend to look at more of a South-North conversation. So from Ghana maybe to Europe, North America, and what have you. But then, indeed, there's a lot of connection within the sub-region in terms of movements between Ghana and its neighbors, Nigeria, and what have you. And so if we have concrete data looking at the flows of remittances, it helps the banks to really have well-informed and well-designed products. Because surprisingly, we see remittance from Nigeria coming in second from the World Bank data that is published. But then most of the time when we talk of remittances, we are looking more of a South-North kind of conversation. But we should begin to look at more of a South-South kind of thing to see what are the flows coming in like from Nigeria per se, because there seems to be a lot of interaction on that corridor as well. And probably there's a lot more we can gain. And surprisingly, it's also one of the highest corridor in terms of cost of remittance. because if you check the Remit Scope publication, it's one of the highest. Even though we're doing well, averaging around 6.4 on that corridor, it seems to be extremely very high. So data for me, I think, is very important, especially data generated internally and not the ones that are being reported. I don't know how the data is collected, maybe from the World Bank and what have you, but coming from maybe BOG or the players in the space, I think that would be very helpful. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Andrew Ginsberg. I work for the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. I'm the Senior Durable Solutions Officer. This is not a question in as much as it's a comment. Sure. At any rate, refugees have a lot of challenges to integration. Often formal employment is a challenge for them. So many of them work in the informal employment sector, and obtaining capital for them is also not so easy because of their lack of collateral. And remittances play a huge part in terms of helping them survive, not just here in Ghana, but in other countries. And the exact extent is not known, but we know it's tremendous. The challenges that I hear from the refugees relate to what Goodwin had said is about documentation, that there's a need for flexibility in terms of the requirements with this respect. Flexibility, I understand, has to come from not just the banks, it has to come from the Bank of Ghana, it has to come from the Ministry of Finance. And these are the challenges. And it would be remiss of me not to stand here and tell you that you have refugees here that do have these challenges, and that remittances is a key part of their survival. And this is an issue for them, and it's something that we ought to consider.
Thank you so much, Andrew. At this point, I'm going to wrap this up and just conclude with this panel. I think that we've had a really interesting conversation, so I just want to say thank you. It shows that there's a lot of work to be done and the challenges align across the sector. We continue to work on costs, increasing financial inclusion, moving informal into formal, and digitization, which just happens to be all the goals of our program Prime Africa as well. So that's also nicely aligned. In terms of solutions and initiatives that need to be worked on, I think that for me, the overwhelming thing that's come out of this is that there are different segments need different things. So in the rural areas, we need to focus on looking at digitization. For the refugees, they want to see how they can be more integrated. For the diaspora, they're looking for banking and for products. So I think, and this all of this information would, and the development of the products and services that these different segments need would be great if we had data to help us back it up and make those decisions, so that we know that we're making decisions that that people actually want, that they need, and that we are providing solutions to challenges in people's lives. So I'm looking really forward to continuing this conversation throughout the year, not just on IDFR, bilaterally and through the National Remittance Stakeholder Network. And I also look forward to coming back next year and us reporting on the results of the different initiatives that we are working on, and making further progress in the market. So thank you, everyone.
A big round of applause to all our next panelists. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mauro. It's a pleasure to be here. So I'll just ask my panelists to take a seat, and then I would introduce them. Just before I do that, I think from the first panel and from all the speakers we've had, the importance, the role of family remittances plays in transforming local economies, especially in Ghana, is now recognized globally I mean, today that has been set aside for us to celebrate this day is an example of such global agreement. National and international organizations have used our powers to bring together industry stakeholders, framing efforts within commitments to develop the goals around remittances. And I think today we've seen how the SDG target of 10C to reduce remittance costs to 3% by 2030 is important. You've seen where we are now, at least mobile money or mobile development in mobile financial services has ensured that we have brought it down and we are probably around 6.4%. So there's still a gap we need to actually work towards. And with COVID, there's something that has actually been very clear, that in spite of COVID, the volumes and the inflows of remittances stood very still. We've seen the numbers, and for us, for this panel, we are going to explore how we are going to use digital to ensure that we bring this cost to 3%. I think it's important that whatever barriers we've seen from the first panel in terms of cost, in terms of flexible KYC, in terms of challenges, we have to make sure that the irregular migration or irregular forms of remitting flows into the diaspora, from the diaspora to Ghana, has to be stemmed. We have seen how uptake of digital channels has grown since COVID, and this discussion here with this panel is actually interesting because private sector is the engine of growth. We all know the role the private sector has played. And my panel today is going to delve deep into what we are going to do to be able to bridge this gap and ensure that we bring the cost of remittances to 3%. We should look at what can we do leveraging remittance data. We heard from the head of research from Bank of Ghana tell us what we can do with the data. We need to ensure that we can all see the data. We need to ensure that service providers report the data and report it accurately. Godwin from Fidelity Bank actually did talk about the fact that even though we've come very far, there's still room to be improved. We have to ensure that data is disaggregated so we know who is behind the numbers. So for our panel, national remittance market and the role of the private sector towards greater digital and financial inclusion. I think Ministry of Finance mentioned to us how far we've come. We all know what the targets of financial inclusion for us as a country has been. We have moved from 58%. I think the DFS policy actually states the indicator as 75%. But I know we've just completed a FinScope, so hopefully we should have higher numbers. And I think Ministry of Finance alluded to the fact that we've probably crossed the 90% mark. But hopefully we should be seeing some figures that the ministry will be presenting very shortly. So bringing this to the private sector, I'll start with Kofi. Kofi, we've been at this for a while. I mean, you heard Bank of Ghana talk about an enabling environment, so obviously we had the Payment Systems and Services Act. We've had all the guidelines that has enabled us thrive. We even have a DFS policy that actually sets what we need to do to ensure that we promote digital financial services. Having worked in the ecosystem, can you just tell me, from your personal as well as from your organization's perspective, how digital is going to bridge this gap to look at how we can reduce the cost of remittances, leveraging remittance data? Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. So, I mean, I'd like to capture perhaps my answer in 3 quick points. So, if you look at the generations of remittance models that we have had from day one, there was a first generation type of remittance service where remittances were traditionally sent to bank accounts, or if you like, where remittances were paid out to recipients. Then fast forward to a second generation model where digitization kicked in very strongly, where we had remittances being sent to mobile money wallets and the like. What we are seeing today is, if you like, a third generation model where remittances are being sent to mobile wallets, but this time with more value added services. So this third generation wave of remittances sees a lot more digitization, where now, based on remittances that people are receiving, we are able to build credit score for persons who are receiving these remittances. So your credit score, for example, increases not just because you are borrowing from a financial institution, but simply because you are receiving remittances. We deem it to be a certain form of livelihood. Now, if we're able to build a credit score or a certain intelligence based on the remittances you are receiving, then it, if like, creates a lot more opportunity in the areas of digitization, where now we could target you with insurance services, we could target you with loans, we could target you with retail programs by the different types of institutions in that ecosystem. Now, what this means is that if there are value-added services for remittance recipients, then the eventual cost of remittances can come down from the 6% that we are seeing in Ghana. And indeed, as you alluded to, in Africa, Africa has the highest cost of remittance. And I guess with a lot more digitization and a lot more intelligence as we build on top of it with the various credit scoring algorithms, etc., there will be an added impetus for people to be able to receive money and make a lot more sense. I guess the last point I want to make on this subject is, from what we've seen in COVID and the fact that even in COVID, for all the functions of finance, from insurance, etc., that reduced in traction, remittances grew, I think by some odd 13% or so in the COVID era. For me, what this also says is that then remittances becomes the most resilient of all the functions of finance to grow financial inclusion. Okay.
Thank you very, very much, Kofi. I think it's interesting how you break it down to show us where we started from in terms of what the past was in terms of remittances going into bank accounts, how we moved on to wallets, and the value we are actually generating all through digital. So I think that's a good thing. But let me come to Thompson. I think one of the key things we've realized, especially with the impact of COVID and in building resilience, I think we actually saw, let me borrow this cliche, a silver lining, where it wasn't all doom about COVID, but we saw the uptake of digital channels. I mean, people who in the past would shy away from using any form of a digital financial services have actually become our ambassadors now. Coming from a mobile network operator, can you give me what your organization is doing in terms of enabling digital to push more? We've done very well. We've come down. I mean, irregular remittance cost is still high. We've seen that there was almost 300 million migrants sending money to almost 1 billion people or families across, even looking at Africa. What do you think is that key innovation the private sector, especially looking at the power you have, because there's a telecommunication company behind you, and you're actually a mobile network operator. So can you just tell me how we are going to reinforce what we've built on digital to ensure that we get closer to the 3% we are all targeting?
Thank you. So, rightly said, COVID came as a blessing for the mobile money sort of operators, or should I say EMIs, because at a point in time, cash was an enemy, so everybody was going digital, trying to accept payments through digital means. So, rightly said, all the reports that we saw from Bank of Ghana perspective and even Ministry of Finance were all correct. We actually enjoyed ourselves, for lack of better words, during COVID. So it was a blessing for us. Now, moving into the remittance space, as Airtel Tigo Money or as a mobile money operator, we are trying to move away from the traditional approach of cash in, cash out. This is basically the basic form of transfer that you can call a mobile money operator to have, or to basically use. You receive the money, you do a cash in, or you do a cash out, or you send to somebody. We are now moving away from that angle where now when you receive money, you have use cases that you can use the money for without even thinking about cashing out and taking the cash itself. So I'm talking about the likes of paying for services. So when Kofi was speaking, he highlighted insurances and pensions and whatnot. Yes, that is where we've got into right now, so that the subscriber now sees that having money on my wallet doesn't necessarily mean that I need to have physical cash. Now I can basically transact and move towards a cash-light society. And we think that this is where, as an industry, we are all heading towards to. That's how come even the government of Ghana and even BOG are all partnering with us and then trying to make sure that it's an enabling environment where we create a system, somebody receives, somebody pays for services, and then it keeps moving around in an ecosystem. So now people receiving money from abroad don't necessarily have to think of, okay, I have to go and look for a place to cash out. Or no. Now the whole standpoint, when I receive the money, what can I do with the money? Can I pay for a service? Can I buy a product with it? And we believe that in building this kind of ecosystem from our standpoint, we'll make sure that digital financing becomes what it's supposed to be, as in keeping the money in the system.
So yes, I think it's interesting you mentioned how we have an enabling environment to spur on the growth of digital. I mean, for me, I noticed Emmanuel from the European Union has actually, I'm sure he's going for another program, but the work Prime is doing and why we are here today, as well as the work we do at the UNCDF, I think digital remittances innovation is something the European Union is passionate about. They fund both initiatives, and what we do actually is to leverage digital and see how we can leverage data. We've heard from a payment service provider, an ecosystem practitioner. We've heard from a mobile network operator. Kate, I am coming to you now as a bank. I think the law, I like the way we fashion out our law because you tend to get different perspectives from different segments and sectors. So what is EcoBank doing to be able to bridge this gap? How do we ensure that we use digital to reduce the cost of remittances from the current 6.8% to the targeted 3% that we want?
Thank you very much, Clara. And I think I would leverage on what my colleagues on the panel have said, because in the banking sector, it's now all about partnerships. And we cannot do what we have done currently without the support of fintechs and then telcos. So what I would like to say is that it starts with the fact that the banking sector continuously look at how to make sure that they are meeting the needs of customers. And one of these needs is the fact that we need to ensure that remittance costs come down. Now at EcoBank, to do that, and of course referring to the SDG goals, the fact that we want to reduce remittance costs to 3%, we had to look at the customer journey, look at the customer needs, and then come up with a product that would actually meet those needs. One of those flagship products that we came up with was the Rapid Transfer product. Now, Rapid Transfer product is a product that allows our customers across the operational countries that we are in, 33 African countries, to be able to remit funds across borders. And this is very interesting because in as much as referring to Kofi's journeys, we had the fact that you could cash out at over the counter, then we went on into account, then to wallet. Rapid Transfer was birthed based on the fact that we had these needs. And during the conversation earlier, the gentleman from Central Bank was talking about data collection, where one of the key things had to do with how do we know exactly what these remittance or funds are being used for. So digitizing the whole process, we're able to come up with a Rapid Transfer product, where on our various apps, you are able to send money across 33 African countries, and then you're able to indicate the reason for sending the funds. This helps the bank to know exactly what consumers, customers, migrants are using their funds for. And then it helps you to know exactly what you can do with them. And this was all leveraged on the fact that digitization is the way to go.
So we've established the fact that digital is definitely the way to go. We've looked at the various innovations across your different organizations. But let's situate it more to Ghana. I think this is where it's going to be an interesting one. Let's talk about the electronic levy and the impact it's going to have on uptake. Kofi, I know we've had these discussions, and DFS taxation is something we are looking at a global level. But let's situate it more to Ghana. We just implemented the electronic levy charge. What do you think the story is going to be when we meet here next year, looking at the impact of reducing costs, which we've looked at, looking at digitization? Are we going to see people just, well, maybe mobile has suddenly become everywhere, it's ubiquitous, everybody wants to use it, but what's the impact from where you sit?
Okay. Yeah, thank you for the question. So first and foremost, I mean, the e-levy, yes. Am I clear? Right. First and foremost, the e-levy exempts remittances. So for what it's worth, it will not impact remittances. And I would speak to perhaps the broader effect of the e-levy on digitization as a general concept. But just before then, I think one very important subject matter perhaps we need to address while we talk about reducing the cost of remittances from 6% to 3%, perhaps will have to be maybe two-pronged. The first for me is how we can reduce the incidence of risk, okay, in this whole remittance conversation. And perhaps the biggest way to remove that risk of fraud is through effective KYC. For all the entities within the ecosystem, you would realize that the two perhaps most expensive endeavors when it comes to our pricing models will be gaming and then remittance. So gaming and remittance, or if you like, betting and remittance are very expensive. And this is because of the levels of risk associated with these models of services. My thinking is that as we drive more towards more effective KYC programs and a synchronization of customer data, perhaps through the national ID program as we have it, and if you like, leveraging on other existing data infrastructure, I get a sense that the risk factor will be reduced and we'll be able to drive costs lower. The second subject matter will be how to remove some of the players within the space. So for example, if, and I think Godwin articulated it very effectively, that if you walked to an MTO agent in the UK, this agent will put a markup on the remittance that you are receiving from this remittance that you are sending home. The MTO itself also does a markup. When it's being terminated, when it hits Ghana, if it doesn't come directly to the bank, the fintech that brings it to the bank will put a charge on it. The bank will put a charge on it. If it has to be sent to your mobile money wallet, there will be a charge. At the end of the day, if we don't reduce the numbers of players within this ecosystem, we will not be able to reduce the cost. So I think one of the most important things we have to do is to look at how we can reduce the number of players. Of course, that would mean that certain entities would have to lose this opportunity. But then again, that is when we will have to compete over value. Which extra value are bringing to the table? On the effect of e-levy on digitization generally, I mean, we are doing a wait and see because this is the first time across Africa we are seeing this level of, or rather this height of a levy on the ecosystem. In Uganda, from what we saw, the government had to, undo what they had done, right? In Cote d'Ivoire, it took a certain toll on the ecosystem. I guess it's a wait-and-see approach. I really can't tell. Maybe next year will come and then the transactions would have increased, and the government will say, we told you so. We told you that it wasn't so price elastic, right? So I guess the wait-and-see, I'm unable to make a prediction as to what it will look like,
Okay, the follow-on, Thompson,
please.
So
I would like to help him because we sit in a space where we see transactions coming in and out from the mobile money side. Clearly, after the implementation from 1st of May, we've seen transactions going down, and obviously we expected it to go down. If I was going to put a percentage to it, I will comfortably say around 40%, which is on the high side. We're actually looking around 20% thereabout, but it's good Minister of Finance is here, so I can put it on record. Yes, it's around 40%, and this is even phase 1. Phase 2 goes live 1st July. So the conversation is even phase 1, we are doing 40%, and what about if it's full-blown? What happens? What I would say is that, clearly, as Kofi said, there's no direct impact on remittance because it has been exempted.
Yeah.
However, the person receiving the funds, Ghanaians, since we're in Ghana, we use perceptions a lot. So I'm receiving the funds, and the conversation is, okay, even though the guy sending it or my family member sending it is not going to be charged, that levy, I'm receiving it. What will I do with the funds? And my initial submission, I highlighted use cases. We don't want cash out. We want you to use it. Send somebody, buy something with it. And these things, apart from merchant payments, which is also exempted, send it to somebody also, maybe that's what you want to use for, and these are charged. So I think maybe we have to sit down and, as Kofi was saying, wait and see. This week, I realize Tanzania they have reviewed their e-levy, I think 40% or so. They did a 30% last year, and have reviewed again 40%. It's still going down. So I believe that we shouldn't wait till we totally have no business, not to be a doomsayer, but we shouldn't wait. We should try and make frantic efforts to make sure that at the end of the day, everybody is comfortable, because 1.5 is good. But the question somebody asked me in a forum like this is, how come the government is taking 1.5 and you are taking 1%? Trust me, I didn't get an answer for that. So I'll leave it here.
Thank you very much. Kate, I think if you have a follow-on to this, but I think what I would like to hear from you, is, I know there are lots of discussions about KYC, having flexible KYC, tiered KYC. I saw from the reports that we launched that KYC is still an issue. I know the audience would ask us more questions about the e-levy, so let's put that to rest for now, and as Ghanaians say, let's park it for now. Can you tell me what you think, do we have adequate, or there could still be some improvements? I know from EcoBank you have the Express account. It's actually a reduced sort of KYC. It's easier to onboard. I know other banks like Fidelity. I know it's easier to have a mobile money wallet. But can you tell me if there's more we can do to ensure that a lot more people are moved from the irregular or the informal remittance to the formalized one because we've reduced our KYC?
Thank you very much, Clara. And I think I want to react to the
e-levy. Go ahead.
I think what is going to happen, or what is happening, is that definitely consumers will change behavior. Okay, and I know also that we have an agenda, and that agenda is a digital agenda for the nation. So where we have consumers looking at, how do I react to this? What else can I do? And that would be a wait and see as well, because definitely we know that consumers normally will change behavior to make sure that they incur as little cost as possible when they are doing transactions. So that for sure would happen. The risk then is that, are we then going to move to other methods of doing transactions, which is not what we want to achieve as a whole? So these are all wait and see conversations. We need to take a look at it. But I think with month 1, month 2, we should be able to start gathering data so that some information will be known and then decisions can be taken around that. Now, on KYC, I beg to differ about the report, because I know that currently, again, with the support, partnerships with telcos, partnerships with fintechs, we've been able to get to the point whereby the various caveats that were set in the Payment Systems Act that enables us to have light KYC accounts, medium KYC accounts, and then a high KYC account is possible. And digital has made it possible for us to be able to have light KYC and medium KYC accounts. So for EcoBank, for example, aside the Express account, we should just need to have a telco number to be able to onboard onto an account. And that can be done via a mobile app or via USSD, making sure that we are serving both parties in terms of those with smartphones and those with feature phones. And then to the point whereby even on the mobile app, you are able to then upgrade to an Express Plus, and it's done digitally as well. And I think that I would also give some credit to the government, because with the Ghana card, the single ID, it's making that process quite easy for all of us. So we have an enabling environment that is allowing us to be able to have light KYC accounts. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this point, I would like to get my audience ready. If you would have some questions that you would like to ask, just raise your hand and I would send it to you. And for my panelists, I think for me, the next part where we would look at is looking at the last mile. I think all of these things we've said is nice. Everything looks like we are on the right track. But having worked, and lately because of the work I do, you tend to realize that when we exit Accra and Kumasi and the bigger towns, we still need to have some work that needs to be done. How are we addressing inclusiveness? How are we looking at the question around gender? How are we looking at the question around MSMEs? How are we looking at the question around the youth? I mean, I think sometimes when I look at our laws, we have a chunk of our population who are the youth, and sometimes maybe our financial institutions actually exclude them. But these are all active people that we need to look at. So for me, as private sector, how are we ensuring that, yes, we've gone digital, but are these channels last mile? Are people in the rural areas able to access this? I heard the Ministry of Finance take us through the fact that there's going to be a national financial literacy strategy. And I really want to commend them, because from the works we've done now, I think that's the new problem we are seeing. Do people have the skills? Do they understand these services? If we are leveraging remittances to extend additional financial service, whether it's pensions or insurance, do people really understand what is there? Do we have the right, adequate consumer protection framework? Because these are all the challenges that the first panel expressed. And as private sector, how are we going to sort of make sure that we deliver on these as well, to ensure that everybody, whether within the rural or the peri-rural or rural communities, actually can have access to these digital solutions we are talking about? Do I have any questions? Yes, please. I do have one hand here.
So this question is directed to Kate. I just want to know, percentage-wise, what the bank is doing in terms of account opening or any other product that they run, percentage-wise, how they've eliminated customers from walking into the banking hall to open accounts.
How?
Percentage-wise, what the banks are doing, or how they have helped to eliminate customers walking into the banking hall to complete their account opening process online.
Okay. So when we talk about account opening, and talking about digitization, so we have been able to get various digital platforms that we are utilizing to get accounts opened. So you have your mobile app, you have your USSD, you have EcoBank, you have the online banking as well. And if we look at the numbers that we are seeing in terms of accounts that are being opened virtually or out of the banking hall, I can tell you that we have more than 80% of our accounts being opened digitally. And that is also because you need little information, but information that is good enough for us to have good information about you, good KYC about you. So almost 80% of accounts that are open currently are actually open virtually and out of the banking halls. And I can even say that when I take one particular product, for example, rapid transfer, where we have customers walking into the banking hall to do a transaction, we can now say that we have a 50-50% ratio digitally and then over the counter. So we are having that number moving, it's moving upwards as we move on. Thank you.
My question is how we are encouraging investment usage of remittances. I think that's still, do you hear me?
No, you're not audible.
Okay. All right, so there is still the high tendency for people who receive remittances to to cash it out and use it for consumption. As we think of how we can improve the usage of remittances for national development, I'm asking the banks, the fintechs, what products do we anticipate we could advise those who receive remittances to channel the money into, so that it will be more of investment instead of taking the money mostly for consumption. So I think Mr. Sachi mentioned that people are being encouraged to use funds instead of withdrawing, but I'll be interested to know more about that kind of possibilities for people. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, ideally, there is also, we have pension products. So, for example, somebody received funds from outside. As a mobile money operator, we sort of advise customers to have these services, like the pension service. So, and this pension service, the uniqueness of it is that you don't have to be a corporate, be working or be on any corporate body to enjoy this pension service. So basically, if you are self-employed, even a student, you can even enjoy this. So you are receiving, let's say, 1,000 cedis. You can say, okay, I wouldn't want to cash out. I would want to put, let's say, 100 cedis into that pension fund that Tigo Money has created for me. So anytime that my relative is sending me money, a portion or a percentage should go into that particular pension fund. And this is also some of the things that we encourage. Insurance, likewise, a percentage can go into it. We are in partnership with insurance like Bima Insurance, which covers hospital bills and whatnot. So all these things, you can channel them into it. But the problem is the awareness. Does the customer know that I can do these things? So that is what we are also doing on our part to sort of create the awareness that when you receive, it's not all about cash. Let the money move around. You can do this, you can do that. So I think once we intensify such awareness, it would sort of bring that cash out or trying to get a cash, it will lower it or bring it down further.
Thank you very much. Do I have another question?
Good afternoon. Please, my name is Chukwu Emeka of Access Bank. It's a question, but I think the regulators need to know about this. Like, I'm a foreigner who just landed into Ghana with my passport and I need funds, and the relation sends funds from Nigeria to me. With regards to single ID from 1st July. So how do I collect my funds? Through remittance. I don't have the non-citizen card for foreigners in Ghana. I think that issue needs to be addressed because currently the passport is used to collect funds through the banks and the rest. So how are we addressing it, please? Thank you.
I think that's a valid one, especially looking at the migration angle. But I would think the arrangements for foreign nationals, either to get, there's a specific card, temporary IDs for you. Kofi, maybe you can expand on that.
No, so essentially, so what it is that the directive from the central bank is that all persons are supposed to use the national ID. And so within the national ID infrastructure, they've created mechanisms for persons who want to have temporary IDs because they are foreigners, or persons who belong to that minority class of persons who don't have documentation, and so on. So if you went to the National ID Program Authority with your passport, except under circumstances that you are the person involved is an illegal migrant into the country, then you will not be able to enjoy that regime that you've created. But there is a regime for persons who have come into the country with their visas, whatever it is. If you're within the ECOWAS program, your ECOWAS ID will allow you to be able to enjoy some of the benefits that they have under the national ID infrastructure.
The prerequisite for the non-citizen card is your passport. But looking at it, $120. Most people, it's not affordable.
Yeah.
At the meantime, I came to rush out under 1 week. and you're asking me to go and pay $120 with the time wasted and everything at the National Identification Authority. How feasible it is? And with my passport. The second issue is, in foreign lands, you come in with your passport, you are allowed to open a non-citizen account. In Ghana, what's the situation? You must have a resident permit. Even when I go for my non-citizen card, I'm not allowed to open an account in the country I've come to stay for maybe 3 months. What is the ECOWAS protocol all about? Yeah. I have right to stay here for that 90 days and I can't do anything. Yeah, there's no fund that can come in for me. So the authorities seriously need to look at it. Thank you.
I think Minister of Finance, we have to table this, but he has raised very valid concern, and if we're looking at ensuring that we have an inclusive environment, that even if you are a migrant, whether regular or irregular, you do have some access to financial services. So I think as an industry, we need to table this and then come back with some feedback. I think we have action items on this, but I have a hand here. Maybe he will contribute to what I want to say.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just to add on to the discussion around that, I know there was an arrangement between high commissions, heads of missions, and then the UN development partner corporations to facilitate that process. So one of the avenues for the foreigners also is to use their high commissions. When you come in, even as a private person, and it's been observed of a lot of Africans, when they travel outside, unless they fall into trouble, they don't pay visit to their high commission and ambassadors and stuff. So I want to encourage them as well, touch base with your heads of mission, your high commissions, and see what is the arrangement with the state, just to add on to that. I also have one other point, and I don't know whether it can be the Ministry of Finance is here. On 2 issues, how are you using your policies to address the issue of illicit financial flows through transfers and remittances, illicit financial flows? I know it's a bigger thing, and maybe you can speak to it a bit. You know, it's also remittance. It's also an avenue for, moving funds in the illicit way. Ministry of Finance, you can consider addressing that as well within your policy review. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think time is fast spent, so we will be rounding up. So in our concluding remarks, I think I told my panelists to think about what we're doing for the last mile along inclusion. So to wrap up, using digital, how are we going to change this narrative? Don't forget, at the end of it all, we have seen how we're going to leverage remittances for other financial services, for pensions, where even from the send corridors, people know that you are sending money not only for consumption, but for additional financial services. How is this going to get to the last mile in terms of access and usage? I think at this point, I would let Thompson start, Kofi, and then we give Kate the final remarks. Here you go, please.
Okay, thank you. So before I go into that, I wanted to highlight, we've not spoken about outward remittance, and I'm a bit surprised because I think remittance is remittance, whether it's inward or outward. And that's one of the things that I believe that there's a challenge in. But with the introduction of PAPS, the Pan-African Payment Settlement System, I think maybe it might resolve this, because a couple of times that we've had this, or we have observed this particular day, the main concern is how do we send money out? It's not always that we need to get money in here. Trust me, there are relatives who need our money also out there. So how can we also send money out to them? And it's not, since I have a fintech by my side, it's not a technical problem. No, they can do it. It's more of a regulatory problem. So unfortunately, BOG has left, but I think we need to look at that. And with the introduction of the Ghana card, which was the main problem, a centralized ID, I think that now that we are trying to register everybody using one card, we should revisit this conversation of outward remittance and make it a reality that, yes, we can also send something outside. And I think we'll have a more holistic approach when it comes to remittance. It won't be only an inward bit. Now, to our bit on what we are trying to do, a couple of things. The first one is more on increasing our footprint. because rightly said by you, it's not only Accra, Kumasi, Takoradi that we are looking at. We have to make sure that we are everywhere. So wherever you go, you have to see a mobile money agent, in this case, a Tigo money agent, who will be ready to serve you. So when you receive the funds, there's no limitation. You don't have to. One of the first panelists highlighted the cost of transportation in going to the bank to go and withdraw your funds or go for your funds. We are making sure that we are increasing our footprints across the country. Currently around 70,000 agents who are registered. We should get to around 150 by the end of the year. When we do this, it should help us broaden the gap in terms of when it comes to access to funds in the remittance space. The second one we are also looking at is how we bring women into the conversation. This is very, very important. We are in partnership with the World Bank in doing this. So we've set some piloting programs that we are currently going through. We call them Market Women Project. And these projects is focused solely on women in the rural areas. The pilot will start basically in Accra here, and we'll take it elsewhere. Now, the idea is that we want to make sure that we can't create a product and say this product belongs to women. No, it's currently in the mobile money space where we are, it's very difficult to have a tailored product for only women. We believe that they are there, but let's pay more attention to them. So what we are doing is that we are piloting with them, letting them get more access to the mobile money space in being agents, being merchants, even knowing what they can use the money for, creating the awareness. So that whole idea of education and awareness on the remittance space, we are channeling it now through women instead of just doing a holistic approach. So these are a couple of things that we are doing from our outreach that we believe that can push this agenda.
Okay. Thank you very, very much. I think that's very notable. And just to add on, there's another project the European Union is funding where, leveraging remittance, they are designing a microinsurance project that's for women, dedicated for women in the Western and Ashanti region. So keep up the good work. Kofi?
Okay, yeah.
Over to you.
So, yeah, Clara, thanks. So I think that I think the service of the last mile, or the service to the last mile, is directly proportional to the penetration of mobile money itself. In other words, how far we're able to service the last mile is very dependent on how quickly the agents of mobile money players are able to spread across. Again, I feel that a lot more banks having agent networks across rural areas will be very helpful to this conversation. In Sano's research that he did in the Brong-Ahafo region, in a small town called Brekum in the Brong-Ahafo region, showed us that consistent with the International Migration Office's research findings, there's about a 55 to 45 distribution between female and males. Okay, so about 55% of remittances go to females, about 45% go to males. Again, the sense we had on the ground was that if there is enough reason for people to keep money on mobile money wallets, when they receive remittances, there's a lot more that these women will be able to do in those rural areas. They will feel more empowered. We feel that if more women are empowered in the rural areas, it will broaden the penetration of course, these digital services, and particularly the use of remittances. Of course, if we're able to make better use of remittances, there will be the added benefit of livelihoods being improved and so on and so forth, which will invariably, at the end of the day, come back to the impact to the last mile, children and so on in the rural areas.
Thank you very much. Kate, same question to you.
Thank you very much. My comment on the last mile has to do with the fact that we have gotten to the point where digitalization has played a very big role. And again, we've also gotten to the point whereby the economic environment has also helped, aside the regulator also. So you have a situation whereby we have the platforms to be able to receive funds directly onto accounts on wallets or direct into accounts. We have a situation whereby the regulator has made it possible for the agent network to be developed. And we have a situation whereby, aside the fact that we made it possible for individuals to remit directly into account for the beneficiaries, what is happening is that there are value-added services, and that is the last mile as well. And my colleagues have talked about the fact that we have savings products, we have insurance products, and we even have pension products. At EcoBank, you can even be able to purchase a Government of Ghana bill using your app or using the digital platform. And of course, the network of the agents has made it possible for us to move out of the urban areas to the rural communities. But most importantly, I think partnerships is what is helping us to move or stride far in these conversations. And I would say that for EcoBank, one of the key partnerships we have is with the EU IFAD, which is to help us develop a product, a savings investment product, which will benefit typically women in the rural community. So I think these are the things that I would say that going forward, that is what last mile should be looking at, whereby the funds received are able to stay in the network and be used so that we can be able to have enough data to determine what funds are being used for. And that would also help international organizations to know exactly how to fund various interventions. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think you heard it all. I'd like to thank my panelists, but I'd like to sum up by saying, beyond the reduction of cost, I think from this panel, we see how digitalizing remittances, how we're going to bolster linkages, how we're going to explore partnerships, how we're going to ensure that we have products and services and initiatives targeted at the last mile. We've looked at how we're going to explore and put the gender lens on everything that we do. We've seen products that are designed for women from this discussion. And I think what we have realized this afternoon is building longer-term financial resilience, leveraging remittance. I think from this, we would see that financial resilience for remittance users would actually be the end game for all of us. And I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you very much to Kate from EcoBank, Kofi from Etano, and Thompson from Airtel Tigo. And to all of you here, I'd like to say thank you for joining us. Until we meet at the next event, I'd like to say good afternoon and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Clara. Thank you very much to all the panelists. I think it was a very great and interesting and inspiring panel. We have been going through very good sessions today. I think it was incredibly interacting. So let me just conclude with some concluding remarks. So first of all, I would like to thank you all for being here with us today in observance of the International Day of Family Remittances. I would like to thank all the speakers who intervened and brought their expertise, their lessons learned, the good practices, and all colleagues who helped organizing this event. I would like to thank in particular Francine Dove, our colleague in Ghana, because this event is because of her. So thank you, Francine. I think that during this morning, we have engaged in a timely dialogue about the importance of family remittances for sustainable development. Through the lens of public, private, and civil society stakeholders, we have discussed the impact remittances have, particularly in times of crisis, to the livelihoods and resilience of millions of families and their communities here in Ghana. It was a real pleasure to hear from renewed and passionate experts from the Ghanaian remittances market. I think today we learned a lot, and not only about the challenges in the market, but first and foremost about the opportunities that we have in front of us. We discovered several innovative niche solutions that many of us are contributing to develop and promote for the benefit of the poor households receiving remittances and for the benefit of their families members who migrated abroad and who from there continue to support them regularly through the remittances they send. We highlighted the role of mobile remittances, the role of banks, the role of fintechs, the role of all the stakeholders they play in offering millions of people the access to the formal financial sector. It is definitely impossible to summarize everything in a brief conclusion, but I would like just to take a few minutes to mention at least a few takeaways that highlight the relevance of the role and the role of remittances in the development arena. So over the last decade, the focus on remittances has been mostly on aggregated volumes and high transactions cost on the sending side. I think it is clear that in the aftermath of the COVID-19 crisis, it has become, we really need to must start focusing on the receivers, on the receiving side. Current estimates indicate that 75% of remittance flows are used to meet immediate needs, but that leaves other 25% for other purposes. It is really by providing remittance families with better opportunities and more options to use their money productively, giving better opportunities to save, appropriate investment options, better mechanisms to invest in human capital, that we can leverage the development impact of remittances. We also discussed a lot, in particular in our last panel, about the critical importance of remittances for rural and also for most vulnerable communities like women, refugees, and particularly in time of crisis. No matter how many people leave home, more remains behind. Almost half of remittances flow goes to rural area, it was said, and remittances are a lifeline for all of them. So it is therefore crucial to further support digitalization, payment infrastructures, enabling environments, remittance-linked products to substantially increase access to and positively impact the poorest in the most rural areas by leveraging the contribution of remittances to development. So, ladies and gentlemen, for more than 15 years, IFAD has supported migrant workers and their families back home in more than 50 countries. We have worked to maximize the impact of migrant investments and remittances to improve quality of life, financial inclusion, gender equality, and to provide more opportunities for youth. All of these has resulted in enhanced local economic development, and it works. And we are very happy to be here today and creating more synergies and more partnerships with you all here in Ghana in order to adapt what we have learned in the past and also improve the enabling environment in the country. I hope we will all leave this meeting with a renewed commitment to help remittance families improve their lives and to further leverage the impact of these flows to create more economic opportunities and enable communities to recover from the current crisis. We really look forward to continuing engaging with you all from now on to assess progress and further promote sustainable development through migrant remittances and diaspora investment. I would like to thank you all for being here, for having been here today with us. And I would like to leave you with a very short video message from our president of IFAD as a concluding point. Thank you very much.